Welcome back, and today on Putin on Blast Week. Is Vladimir Putin the satanic mechanic needed to win the war in Ukraine? Putin has tried to frame this war as an existential crisis for Russia, even as a holy war, and in that vein, we get a few stories like this. Newsweek, Putin appointed Chief Exorcist as Kremlin whips up satanic panic. Russian President Vladimir Putin has been named Chief Exorcist by the head of the country's Orthodox Church as the Kremlin seeks to redefine its goals of the invasion of Ukraine. When Putin invaded on February 24th, my wife's birthday, she got a hell of a birthday present, he used the term denazification, saying that the goal was a special military operation, but now his Security Council has shifted to the phrase desatanization. Alexei Pavlov, Assistant Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, said, "I believe that with the continuation of the special military operation, it becomes more and more urgent to carry out the desatanization of Ukraine." Going on, he said, "By using internet manipulation and psychotechnologies, the new regime turned Ukraine from a sovereign state into a totalitarian hypersect. There are hundreds of sects sharpened for a specific goal and flock." He also noted that Church of Satan spread across Ukraine as an officially registered religion in the United States. Yeah, well, that's true, and if you count the number of members, you know that it's not really mainstream. Patriarch Kirill, head of the Russian Orthodox Church, called Putin a fighter against the Antichrist, or Chief Exorcist, according to local news outlets. Kirill said that Putin is fighting against the manifestation of globalism, and the name of the one who will claim global power will be associated with the end of the world. He went on to tell citizens not to be afraid of death amid Putin's mobilization. "Go bravely to fulfill your military duty. Remember that if you lay down your life for your country, you will be with God in his kingdom, glory and eternal life." Patriarch Kirill, you really don't know who you are aligning yourself with. From the Daily Beast, Russian troops baptized in body bags as Moscow pivots to desatanization of Ukraine. As Russia increasingly seeks to reframe its invasion of Ukraine as a holy war, Vladimir Putin has been declared the chosen one to defeat the Antichrist, and Russian priests have been deployed to the front line to bolster morale among the troops now referred to as soldiers of Christ. Viktor Ivanov, a priest from Russian Orthodox Church in Ufa, while visiting positions near the front, said, "A strong man approached, modestly as if embarrassed. He looks at me and timidly asks, 'Father, our fighter wanted to be baptized. Is that possible to do?' Well, he said they needed a basin and they couldn't find one, so they made a little frame and they used a black polyethylene bag as a basin, and the long-awaited baptism was done." Ivanov calling it a great event. By the way, that black polyethylene bag they used, it's also known as a body bag. The good soldier may well find himself not only over one but in one before not too long. Patriarch Kirill, the head of Russian Orthodox Church, ramped up his support for the war by claiming Putin is the chosen one to fight against the Antichrist. Putin's holy man argued that there are a lot of signs to indicate the end of the world was near, and the Russian leader is the only one who can stop it. Well, hundreds of preachers have predicted the end of the world thousands of times. Noted, hundreds of preachers and thousands of declarations of the end of the world. None of them have happened yet, and if anybody is going to be able to bring about the end of the world, at least in a fiery apocalypse, it'd be your man Vlad. He's the one with his hand on the nuclear button, and the only one of the nuclear powers who's talking about using nuclear weapons. You might think before you hitch yourself to the wrong wagon there, Kirill. From Newsweek, Russian priest, mother sad about mobilization should have had more sons. A Russian priest had harsh advice for a mother who said that she and a friend fear for their sons in the wake of the country's mobilization. The clip shared on Twitter showed a woman being interviewed on a Russian news program and purportedly explaining the grim prediction her friend has experienced with her son. "An acquaintance of my family sold practically everything she had and sent her son to the Canary Islands because she is very worried about her child. She is willing to give anything to have her child there, away from this situation she does not understand." Do you understand mothers? Do you understand how they feel at this moment? Well, obviously, a Russian priest didn't. A priest who was not identified suggested in response that mothers should have had more children, but they are now worried about losing sons to war in Ukraine. He also took the opportunity to implicitly denounce abortion and various other means of contraception. He said, "I understand that everyone by nature has been allowed by God to have many children in most cases. If a woman keeps the commandment of procreation and has renounced artificial means of termination of pregnancy in the widest range, it is obvious that she will have more than one child in most cases. faces, so she won't be as pained or scared to part with them. God willing, things turn out all right. I don't know where to start. Number one, Orthodox priests are allowed to marry. However, if they wish to become a bishop, they have to have not married. So I'm assuming churches, like anything else, are a political animal. I'm assuming that this good priest wants to move up the ranks, so he's probably not married. And it's kind of like, the old argument about going to a Catholic priest for marital counseling. He's never been married, probably never going to be. So what does he know about the problems faced in a marriage? Here is a priest. By his comments, he obviously wants to move up in the hierarchy of the Russian Orthodox Church. So we can safely assume that he's not married and he has no children. And he's saying that if she had a dozen kids or more, she wouldn't worry about losing one. And that is not at all true. I grew up Catholic. I've known large families. And I've never heard of a mother who has lost a child to, whether it was disease, accident, misadventure, saying, oh well, I still got 11 more. No, it hits right to the heart. It doesn't matter if you have one child or a dozen. The loss of a child hits right to the soul. I'll never forget the look on my father's face when my sister Diana died of cancer. He was nearly inconsolable for weeks afterwards. For this priest to say something like that demonstrates his unfitness, lack of fitness for ministering to a flock. As for Kirill and his end of the world statement, well, like I said, there are, U.S., Britain, France, possibly Israel, India, Pakistan, China, North Korea. Nobody openly flaunts the idea of a first strike because they know what a nuclear weapon can do. That having been said, only one world leader with nuclear weapons has mentioned using a first strike, and that's Vladimir Putin. And the great fear of using nuclear weapons, period, whether tactical or strategic, is that once a single nuclear weapon is let loose, it will bring a cascade effect leading to a nuclear apocalypse. Kirill, you've hitched your wagon to the wrong star there. If you want to see the end of the world, you stick with Vlad and look back at him. Look at where he came from. You got to be a true believer. You had to be a true believer back in the day to become a member of the KGB. And by his actions and words, nothing really has changed all that much. Oh, yes, Russia is now more open market than it was during the communist era, but he still wants to be the strong man like Joseph Stalin. Only Joseph Stalin, while he had nuclear weapons toward the end of his life, didn't have any way of delivering them. Vlad does, and he's talked about using them, seriously talked about using them, and then he's denied using them, and then he talks about using them again. He either has multiple personalities or he's a lying son of a bitch, which I tend to lean toward the latter. This isn't a holy war. Kirill, you want to be like the Pope in Rome. You want to be the head of a church that even those that don't agree with you respect you. And the Western Protestant faiths still respect the Pope and what he stands for. Some even admit to having been an off-branch of the Catholic Church. The two that come to mind right at the start are Lutherans and the members of the Anabaptist Convention, Baptists, Amish, Mennonites. You want that respect. If you were going to be the head of all Orthodox churches, they would all be on your side. They would all agree with you, and they all don't. Take your holy war, write it out on a piece of paper, fold it up until it's all nice, sharp little corners, and then shove it where the sun doesn't shine. Your man's a communist. Always was, always will be. And remember what the communists said about religion. It's the opium for the masses. You are of use to him today, and when you are no longer of use to him, he will push you aside and ignore you. If you're lucky. We'll talk later about the better than a dozen people who were friends of Vlad who have died since the war started, and there were a couple of dozen before the war started that suddenly died. Once he doesn't need you, you're gone. So think long, think well. Well, folks, I'm done ranting for today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, comment. YouTube makes a big deal about all that stuff. Y'all have a good day and drink one for me. I'll see you tomorrow. See ya. Bye.